Speak to the Institute for Security Studies founder, Jakkie Cilliers, about Mapisa-Nqakula's tenure as Defence Minister. Mr. Cilliers, good evening to you and thank you very much for your time. The parliamentary profile of Nosiviwe Mapisa-Nqakula says that she became Defence Minister on the 26th of May 2014 all the way up until the 5th of August 2021. How would you sum up her record as Defence Minister?
Good evening. Well, she was a mediocre Minister of Defence. There's no doubt that if you look at what is happening with the department, that it's gone steadily downhill in almost every respect. That, of course, is not only her fault. There are many reasons for this. But she does not seem to have provided leadership, and there are many instances of abuse of funds, misuse of funds. Of course, what happened with the Gupta landing at the Waterkloof Airport probably is the best known. But yes, I think the hope is that we will bring some competence into Parliament. The Department of Defence is in a sorry state. There's absolutely no doubt about that. And there's going to be very little additional funding coming to it if we look at the state of the fiscus, meaning that we need some decisive leadership and direction in the department.
Well, I think the EFF perhaps has best put this question I'm going to relate to you now. They're saying that the South African National Defence Force is reeling under the weight of severe repercussions of rampant corruption, and this goes back to her time in office, and that's why they are saying that the SANDF is simply unable to carry out its duties where it is deployed right now in the DRC. Is that a fair assessment? Is that a fair reflection?
I think when it comes to the corruption side, that still has to be proven. But there is no doubt that the Department of Defence is in a poor state. Whether you're speaking about their deployment in Mozambique, in the DRC, or internally in South Africa, the department has been hollowed out. It doesn't have the logistics, the support capacity. It's poorly led. It's poorly managed. Yeah, I don't know which other. There are so many examples to use in terms of the challenges that it faced. And that, of course, the head of the department has to accept responsibility for that. And she certainly did very little to stem, I think, the hemorrhaging that has happened in the department. But I think it's a bit far to speak about rampant corruption. There are instances of abuse of power that have been widely reported. But as far as I know, she hasn't been found guilty of extensive corruption and infringement of state funding.
And you used two critical words, the abuse, or should we say alleged abuse of power during her time as Defence Minister, and you also link that to the hemorrhaging, as you say, within that department. Let's look at the procurement space within the SANDF during her time in office. Do you think that that space may have been abused?
It's difficult to say. The department, what has happened is that the department is very poorly managed and led. So there are all kinds of disputes with regard to procurement. Particularly, it started when she took over from Lindiwe Sisulu about the procurement of aircraft. But and then there have been delays in major projects such as Project Hoefyster, which is the replacement of the infantry's combat vehicle. But one doesn't know to what extent that is just poor management, bad leadership, mismanagement, rather than blatant corruption. There is a case now that she has to answer where there is evidence, and we'll see what the court finds. But I think the major challenge that, the major accusation one can make with regard to her is just incompetence and poor leadership, generally, a lack of leadership, a mediocrity, and I think those are the accusations or the characteristics that I would say characterized what has happened in the Department of Defense. And the department, as I've said, is really in a miserable state at the moment.
Jakkie Cilliers, let's leave it there. Thank you very much for your time and analysis. He is with the Institute for Security Studies.